Hello guys, today we're going to see what would happen if Canada was Balkanized. And no, I don't mean to say that what if Quebec left Canada? I mean to say that what if Canada was just completely divided? And of course, this is really unrealistic and this is just for fun. So our story starts in Vinland back in 1000 CE. Here we're going to change history slightly by adjusting where the Vinland colony settles. Instead, the Vikings settle up north, making a slightly dumb decision. However, this would change the course of both Canadian, but mainly Inuit history forever. With these colonies, it's expected that the Vikings and Inuit would have done a lot of trading, which would influence the Inuit culture in language, clothing, and food. Of course, I would love to make a part 2 where we look at the linguistic history, so I'll expect that to be coming in the future. Back to the scenario, it's likely that after the Viking colony collapses, due to the fact that during the time it would be very hard to hold a colony like that, many Inuit city-states would form thanks to the advancements from the Vikings. Out of the many city-states Inuit would build, I'd imagine 4 of them would become the first native empires of northern North America. The names of these first empires would be the Iqaluit Inuit, the Greenlandish Inuit, and the Victoria Inuit, and the Quebecois Inuit. These would be the 4 empires that would be the first native empires of North America. This is the Quebecois Inuit at their peak. They would have controlled most of Quebec and Ontario because of their very, very convenient position in the Canadian Shield, which gave them an offensive and defensive advantage. This is the Iqaluit Inuit, inspired of their capital's name, Iqaluit. They would be one of the more navally advanced people in all of the Americas, and would likely use a lot of island hopping to get to this point. This is the Victoria Inuit, named after Victoria Island. They would be one of the largest and would control the northern coast of Canada, along with a few islands. They would actually make it about as far as Alaska and even small parts of eastern Siberia and Russia. Finally, this is the Greenlandish Inuit. They mainly stuck around in Greenland, having Nuuk as their capital. A few centuries into 1713, we see the French colonies as long as areas of the French ceded. It's likely that this is where the division between the Quebecois Inuit and the rest of the Inuit peoples would begin, as the Quebecois Inuit would now be influenced by both Viking and French culture, due to the fact that the French and still hold territories in the Inuit area. Moving away from the Inuit, let's talk about the Cree, which will have a good chance at forming their own state. It's likely with the European introduction of horses, they could make a very large nomadic empire spanning from Yukon to what is modern-day Colorado. And just like similar to the Mongolian Empire, they would collapse very quickly, as the British would probably invade them for the land and resources. However, with their culture being the most distinctive in what is now central Canada, it's likely they'll survive as their own state later on the future, as they're made a dominion under the British Empire. Now let's talk about the European cultures that made it to Canada and how they would form their own independent states. Just like in our own history, the Atlantic colonies will be their own separate colony, as the British would have valued them highly for aid with other nations, but also the other colonies in Canada. Okay, enough beating around the bush. Let's talk about Quebec. So the thing is that because of the 7 Years' War and the fact that the indigenous population already weakened France's army enough, and then the 7 Years' War came along, which already obliterated France's army, it's likely that the Quebec area would be much smaller, only some land would be ceded to create a separate Inuit colony. Some land would be ceded to the Atlantic colonies, and it's likely that the border between what would be Ontario, Rupert's Land in this world, and Quebec would go on the upper side of the Ottawa River. Let's look at the western coast of Canada, which would have a British-inspired culture compared to the rest of the others. This is what a map of the British colonies in North America could have looked like, with independent lands such as French Canada, with Canada still being used by people in the Labrador Peninsula, Rupert's Land, or the British East and western coast, those all being separate colonies instead of being one singular colony as they were in our world. Finally, after everything, this is what northern North America would look like. And yes, there would be many pacts that would help defend and against the US, but would also help economically. Such pacts could include the Cree Cooperation Pact, which would allow for all the Cree states, the North, Earth, and Southern Cree, along with the Eastern Cree, to cooperate economically. Another example could be the Inuit Cooperation Pact, which would allow for all the Inuit states to cooperate economically. Final example I'll show here is the British North American Economic Pact, which would basically substitute as Canada, except that it's not really like the old nations are trading with each other. It's kind of like the EU, where like it's free, you can freely travel to other parts of these North American colonies, but economically wise, it only connects them economically. It doesn't like actually support for trade or anything. So, that's how Canada could have been balkanized. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and see y'all next time.